Well, welcome back after a long absence to riding shotgun with Tupper. What happened was we were doing it from my car and we were doing it out on the roads, and somebody suggested that could be some kind of a liability issue, and so we did a few other things, and then I just liked that, and a chance to just drive along and chit-chat about what's going on in Illini sports. And so we're out at where I live, which is kind of out in the country and on a farm sort of, and we've got a mowed grass path around the property, and so there's no traffic on this at all because no cars are allowed back here. And so I thought, well, this would be good. Worst that could happen is I run over a chipmunk or something. I hope that doesn't happen, but we'll see. Anyhow, well, you saw the opening football game, I hope. Illinois beat Ball State 24-21. Didn't look like it. We were all down on the field, had come down out of the press box in the fourth quarter, and it looked like for certain that they were probably going to lose. And I made a comment to one of my scribe buddies, yeah, but if they drive down and score this last possession, it'll feel a lot different. Well, that ended up being what happened. For a long while in that game, they couldn't make plays, and then all of a sudden, late in the fourth quarter, they made a bunch of them in a row. You know, they had the interception by Trey Watson. Then they had the 52-yard punt return by Mikey Dudek. They had the terrific run after catch by Malik Turner. They had the second touchdown run of the day by the freshman Mike Epstein. Then defensively, and then the two-point conversion run by Chase Crouch. And then defensively, they started making some plays. They started getting some pressure on the quarterback, particularly Isaiah Gay, who drew a holding penalty on one play and then got in and got the sack. It looked like there was a fumble that Christian Abercrombie recovered, but they ruled that he was down. I think that was the right ruling. And then, of course, the field goal block at the end, which I don't know if you've still got that on tape. If you tape the games, if you do, go back and look, because Cameron Watkins comes from the side to try to block it by just diving in the path of the ball, and he wipes out their place kicker, wipes him out bad. And the referee, if you look in the background, he kind of gives it, one of those hand signals, which is to say that in his opinion, Watkins deflected the ball, got a fingertip on the ball, and if he had done that, he is allowed to plow into the kicker. I've looked at it a few times. I don't think he got it, and but obviously up at the line of scrimmage, Jamal Milan blocked it with his forearm, and they win by 3. So there were some positives. Certainly, it was great to see Mikey Dudek back. They got to get the ball in his hands more often. Only 2 receptions, that's not enough. You got to figure out a way to get the ball to him. And then I thought their linebackers were good. I thought Trey Watson with the 2 turnovers. And then, hey, Del'Shawn Phillips, 16 tackles. Now, I know Del'Shawn. I talked to him quite a while on Monday, and he said, it should have been 20, and my pass defense was not very good, and I agree with that. His pass defense probably wasn't very good. Those linebackers were good, though, against the run, something to build on. And then I don't come away from that game feeling any less enthusiastic than I did going in about the freshmen. I just think that they're a really talented bunch that's going to get better and better and better. I look at those 2 defensive ends. I look at Isaiah Gay and Bobby Roundtree, and I just imagine what those guys will be as juniors. I realize that we need to see it quicker than that. But even in the course of that game, I think they were growing up. I think they were getting a feel for it. I think their confidence was coming around. I thought that really just all of the freshmen, I thought looked really, really good and promising. Epstein, I think, can be special. Negatively, the offensive line was a mess all day. They decided to discipline 2 starters for the first quarter, and then their center, Doug Kramer, got hurt. They never really did a good job there. Defensive, it's hard when you have freshman corners in there, and they had Tony Adams and Hobbs was in there, and that's hard. And I thought Chase Crouch played poorly. I think after talking with Garrick McGee about it, some of it I kind of understand. He was surprisingly nervous. It was his first home start. You hear your name announced, and he got out there and he was nervous, and maybe because of the changes on the offensive line, he was a little more uptight about what protection might be there for him, and his eyes were mostly on the defensive line rather than down into the secondary. He missed some open people. I thought the play calling at times was poor. I really didn't like it after the Watson interception. I think on first down, Kendrick Foster had his best run of the day, 9 yards. It was 2nd and 1. They're not doing anything special there. They don't have much going. In my opinion, get the first down. I would run Epstein a couple of times, or even Foster for yards. Just move the chain. Instead, they threw twice, and Crouch got sacked twice, and it cost them there. So, anyhow, that was last week. They win the game. Whether they deserve to entirely or not, they win the game. Now they play Western Kentucky Saturday night. They're 8-point underdogs, or they are as we speak. And, Western Kentucky's a team that's won double digits the last 2 years. They've lost some 3 offensive linemen. They've lost receivers. They've lost a running back. But perhaps most importantly, they lost their head coach, Jeff Brom, who used to coach at Illinois. And Jeff's now the head coach at Purdue. But their quarterback, Mike White, is back. They do have some talent back. They really should be better on defense than they showed in their opener against Eastern Kentucky, a game they won. But, I get why they're favorite. And if 8's the number, 8's the number. So Illinois is going to have to play better to win that game. There isn't any question about it. You can't go out there. You won't go out there against this team and luck out at the end and make a couple plays. You're going to have to play better start to finish, and we'll see whether they do that. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was Illini basketball, because yesterday I kind of went over, made a couple phone calls and went over on a lark, and just decided I wanted to speak to Mark Allstork, the transfer from Wright State, who averaged 19 points a game at Wright State. He's going to be this team's only senior, and they're not in team practice yet. That's still about 3 weeks away, but they're in a lot of conditioning with Adam Fletcher, the strength and conditioning coach, and they're able to do a little bit with the coaches, 2 hours a week with the coaches. This week it's two 1-hour full teams, 5-on-5, kind of scrimmage work and so forth. But I really had a good talk with Mark Allstork. Great to get to meet him. I think you'll be excited to learn more about him. I think I'm going to try to post the entire interview on my podcast, which would post Friday morning on the Herald and Review site, and let you hear for yourself. The audio may be less than ideal because we were in the practice gym. When we started out, there was nobody else in there, and then one of the women's players came in and was doing some stuff with Fletch, and so there's a ball bouncing in the background, I realized partway through. But I think it's, if you pay attention a little bit, you can hear what he had to say, and very excited about him, and he's excited too. This is a kid that had some choices. He could have gone to LSU. He could have gone to South Carolina with Frank Martin. He had some other schools involved with him. He had the feedback from the NBA people last year, and he's going to be. He's going to be a starter. So exciting guy, and a really nice kid from Dayton, Ohio. And he's happy to be here. He's enrolled in a master's program as a 5th-year graduate transfer. So he'll only have 1 year of eligibility left, and so he's, obviously there's a lot on the line for him. He wants to get the most out of it. He clearly has designs on playing professionally, and listen to the NBA feedback that told him, you need to be, you need to cut down on turnovers, and they give you a pretty harsh analysis, which is exactly what you want, exactly what he said he wanted, and you need to impact the game more defensively. And he said that's ironic because when he was coming out of high school, one of the reasons he got a scholarship was because he was such a good defensive player. Then he found out he could score, and better than what he thought he could. And you've seen it many times. A guy's good at something, and that's what he works on most of the time. And he worked on his offensive game to the benefit of the offense. He didn't work as much on his defense game to the detriment of the defense. So it was interesting to hear him talk about that, and he seems to have fit in very well, even though he's only been on campus for about a week. and he's high on these freshmen. And so anyhow, we'll post that as the podcast on Friday, and hopefully you'll enjoy it and give you a little bit of insights into this kid. I'm excited to try to get over to basketball, maybe each week if I can, and get to talk to somebody. I also talked to Fletch afterwards. You know, there's a guy that might be the best hire anybody's made in a while. You know, Josh Whitman hire might be right up there, the Underwood hire. We'll see how the Lovey hire works. Those are all bold hires. But John Gross gets credit for that. You know, he hired Adam Fletcher, and last year's team raved about him. Brad Underwood raves about him, best in the business, he says. The players rave about him. You've seen perhaps the pictures of body changes and so forth. I'm turning around in a waterway back here between bean fields. It's his work is very important to the development of this team, particularly because they've got to be able to run, you know, relentlessly, running Brad's system, and the big guys in particular. And so ironically, when I was there yesterday for workouts, just the one thing I can tell you is that, man, they were running, and Fletch was having them run cross-court sprints, trying to get them tired and make them push and make them run and make them run. And Mark Ulstark won a number of those sprints, but their big guys, their new freshman big guys, can really run. I think they've got to learn how to play basketball a little bit more, but that's okay, because they are taking these kids on the upside of what they can be. So anyhow, it was a fun day over at Illinois Hoops, and Saturday's football game, 7 o'clock at night, and maybe see some of you there. And we'll try to do one of these driving around the farm every week, where we won't hit other vehicles or other vehicles won't hit us. So anyhow, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it a lot, and we'll talk to you next week. Goodbye.